Hello, fellow builders, and welcome back to the bench. Welcome to part 8 and the final chapter in our Alphabet Squadron secret base. How do I know it's the final installment of this? Because we're running out of boxes. We're running out of stuff to build. And because we're kind of working on ships while we're waiting on other pieces here and there to dry. I've been building ships. So the latest ship in that repertoire has been the Y-Wing. And I like the way it came out. It looked a little bit better before I put a clear coat over the weathering. I might have to do that again because I think I used this Tamiya weathering master, and I think it might have just worn it. The clear coat might have just dissolved it a bit because it just looks semi-glossy. I don't see as much of the weathering on here. But, you know, we can fix that. Might have to just try another pass. And then when we go to do another clear coat over the top of this, we just do a little bit lighter because I might have gone a little bit heavy. Silver really helps bring up the raised pipes on the Y-Wing. It's one of those discoveries. Discovering this is just, yeah, you could call it a game changer. I'd be okay with that. The other problem we're going to have is landing gear. So with the A-Wing, we had this little display stand part at the bottom, and when you set it down, it looks okay. So when you put it down, it sits like it's supposed to sit. You know, that's fine. There's no landing gear. There's no landing gear for these. So we're going to have to figure out what to do with that. And I do have an idea. Usually when I work on a model, if there are extra pieces, I started sorting them. And so what I did is I sorted. I've got a 1/72 scale box, I've got a 1/44 scale box, and I've got a Bondi box. I think there's a 1/32 scale too. Anywho, sorry, going through the memory. And what I'm going to do is go to my 144th scale box and find some pieces that are landing gear worthy to build something. And if that doesn't work, we're just going to have to try something with some small pieces of styrene and fake it, I guess. But at the end of the day, what we're doing is when you're combining all these pieces, no matter where they come from, it is a marriage. At its heart, scratch building is a marriage. There used to be an old saying, something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. Well, instead of blue, in our case, beige, because our base coat for all the ships is starting at beige. If you use the Bondi kit as your modern standard, the something new would be the 3D printed parts. The borrowed would be the Star Trek parts and the parts from the other kit. Well, what does that leave? But for the old, we're going to use one of the old B-Wing kits to fill in our fourth of the 5 ships. The B-Wing, I can't say it's my favorite ship, but it's a formidable foe. And as you can see, I've got more than one. So Both of these are from back in the day. These are from Return of the Jedi. And of course they're from Return of the Jedi. But they're kits that I happened upon, and I wanted to make sure that I held on to them because I knew there was going to be a future project. I didn't know it was going to be this project. But I think it's only fitting that you have an homage to what came before to the new of what is now. So that's what we're going to use. We're going to use the old B-Wing kit. Again, there's no landing gear. As a matter of fact, I don't think we ever see any landing gear. I can't remember. The only time I ever remember seeing one on the ground was probably in Rebels, maybe? But we're going to have to get into some research and figure out what the landing gear looks like, or we're going to have to figure out our own. So, anyway, let's get this stuff in the paint booth and get it, get some primer on it. We've jumped right on ahead into a couple of the things. It's been a little bit more time than I expected it to be, but we got a little bit more painting done, which gets us where we want to be. One of the things I was talking about before was addressing the whole landing gear problem. I completely forgot about one box that I had, which was armor, and there are always good little pieces in your armor box. So for the A-Wing, let's switch cameras here. For the A-Wing, got a little landing foot. You know, it looks like it's in proportion to how it's supposed to. You know. Then the same thing I had several of these pieces here, and I did the same thing for the Y-Wing. So, and I do believe this is actually where the pieces go. I left them in the beige color so that it could look like it would retract up into the body, and the paint would still match. I did get some work done on the B-Wing, so I still need to do a clear coat on this, but I think it's come out really good. The wings extend. Alright, let me say this about this kit in particular. Well, okay, let's go back. We're talking about the landing gear. So the landing gear I used here, this is actually a foot from one of the X-Wing fighters. So I figured same universe, and right there at the base it's about the same size as the square of the base, so you could in theory feel like it could retract into that spot. That back foot, because of the weight, this was so front heavy and everything, I had to have another foot on the back, and then I have one out here on the wing, and I use this particular, that's actually a windshield wiper off of an armored vehicle, but the reason I used it is because it has the arch, and so, you know, let's use your imagination. If it retracted down into the body for somehow, the arch would fit in my head. It's going to fit that configuration there. This landing foot, you could argue, could fall back and maybe retract inside. I don't know. It works for me, and the most important part is when you set it down, it doesn't tip over. I mean, and that's all we were going for. We're happy with that. We're completely happy with that. The other thing I was going to say is I did find joy in actually building this kit, even though the B-Wing is not that my favorite ship. It just, the kit in and of itself is just, it's a great kit. It's not as detailed as the Bondi kits that we have now, but it's still it was great fun to build. Here's the other thing, And the reason I have more than one, because these are the two that I have that were not built. I know I've got at least two more somewhere else that I did build, but I think they might be packed away in another box. There are so many components to this. Let's look. These wings, you know, the gunned wings, okay? So you have symmetrical gunned wings that you could put on something. You've got this wing pylon out here. You've got that whole long pylon. That could be like a sail with a gun on it. And then there's the engine, all right? The engine pod. You could build pod racers with that. You could build any number of sci-fi scratch build things with that engine block. I've struggled with this part of it. You know, I've not really built anything extra with it, but the potential is there. The potential is totally there to build something. So it's back to your imagination. What can you do with it? The possibilities are endless. But we're down to now just the X-Wing, and once the X-Wing's done, we're finished. So let me get cracking on that. And straight out of the paint booth is the X-Wing fighter. It's got a sufficient amount of grunge. I wanted it to look like it was going into battle. They were repairing what needed to be repaired and sending it right back out. So that's where even added our little landing gear so it sits properly in the landed position. And with that, we can put it in our base. Without further ado, here we have the Alphabet Squadron secret base. Let's fire it up. Added a switch in the back, and there you have it. Yeah, it's been a long time coming, and I think she came out pretty good. Let's give you a little bit of a close-up here. See the lit up interior of the command level. All the ships. I just noticed as I was putting this together that one of my cannons is missing. So, but that kind of just goes to the ramshackle nature of them taking over, capturing a base. It looks like it's been through the ringer. Now, I was discussing hanging a TIE fighter right here, and I felt like that was going to clutter the whole thing, but I do have my top panel still removable. So if I want to do something in the future, I can add it later. But for the most part, I think we're pretty good. Give you a flyby. How about that? Well, that's pretty good. Other than the small flaws here and there, I'm very happy with it. It was a long time coming. It really was. But at the end of the day, I think it was worth it. Well, now we can go start working on our next project, which we already have kind of started working on it. But it's time. It's time for you, my friends, you to go build something. When you do, you gotta like, you gotta subscribe, and you gotta share it with me. We've got the Facebook, we've got YouTube, we have, what else do we have? We have Instagram, and we also just added a email to the setup so that you can actually send stuff, and the email address is gobuildsomethingmm@gmail.com. So send in some of your models and pictures, and I can share them with some other builders, and so everyone can see what you're building. But until next time, we're putting the sucker to bed. Have fun, be safe, and go build something. Pew 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 pew.